I just realized that wasn't my built-in StreamYard one.
Tommy!
Sounds like someone's putting a puppy down.
That's real spooky.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry for the delay with that song. That is from another show. The problem with my board right now, it just says update number 1, update live number 2, and then update number live 3, the fishing one. That's what I have on my end. So apparently that was not the stock one.
It's all good.
It's all right.
Well,
it'll get everybody into the spooky season, you know.
I know.
It is October now, so it's fine.
We'll take it. Well, good evening, everybody who can see us. It's weird. So when we're in this platform, you kind of you just see a white screen and it says you're streaming this to your audience. I don't know where that is.
We get to look at ourselves, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's about all you got. It says that I can stream this to my audience, and then it says select destinations. When I tried to do this, it got mad at me because it said your scheduled stream is already live. Oh. I don't want to schedule it. So hang on. We may not even be on Facebook right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. And I'm wondering if we can trust that Tommy put us on Facebook. But either way, if you can see or hear us.
Like it's loading. Hang on.
It is on Jenny's Facebook. It's fine. Jenny, make sure it's not private.
It's there.
Okay, great.
So is it just that you can view it, or is it open for the public?
Should be, so everybody can see it. If you guys are watching this is very typical.
I can cut this out and post. So anyway,
if you're watching, give us a comment.
Good, Carly.
Yeah.
No one is watching. Do you not see anything on my screen?
Nope.
Do you see it on top of your screen right now?
How'd you end up in the middle? Why do you get the middle position?
Yeah, rude.
Can you see it?
All right, we are live on Facebook right now.
Fantastic.
I can see it. You see?
Yay.
Something like that. It does not want to focus at all.
Okay, I'll bring it up.
It's there.
Anyway, I'm going to leave now. So if you need me, I'll try to keep the computer.
Sounds good. Well, good evening, everybody. We'll give you guys a couple of minutes to hop in here. Probably be here until the top of the hour, so.
Yeah. Gonna give it some time. Get into this. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I see us on Facebook. I had to pull it up separately. Sweet.
So if you see us, comment. It's not like we're watching Facebook and we can see like your comments and see like you interacting with us. It has to like get fed through to the platform. And so we don't see viewers. You don't see how many people are there, nothing like that.
It's cool how it's set up though. Because you can have viewers on YouTube as well. And I think that all the comments on our end come through like the same feed. Mm-hmm. So we can't see really if it's from YouTube or Facebook or whatever until like afterwards. But that's fine.
It's fabulous. Cool. I see that Shannon J just liked us on Facebook.
Hi,
I'm going to go ahead and copy this link because my mama needs to hop in here.
Yeah, I don't think she joined us for our last live and I was offended.
I know. Right? She's like, you're clearly all three of them. My face. I was texting her and I was like, join our Facebook Live. Here, I gotta see if I can get. Will it actually there you go. Look at our faces.
We look so unsure.
Like trauma. Well,
oh my gosh.
So what are you drinking tonight?
Yeah, I was about to ask you that question. All right, so mine I'm sure is way more boring than yours. I just ran to the liquor store real quick and I'm not supposed to be drinking alcohol this week per my coach. So I'm just drinking Fit Vine, basically. It's just a Cabernet and it supposedly has less calories and it's a little healthier. And it's
Carly has stalled out. Carly, you are very frozen. Oh,
I'm back.
Good. All right. It's like I can't handle the truth.
Basically, it just gives the effect desired, and the wine is good enough.
Yes. Wait, we'll take it. Does it actually
What are
taste
you
okay?
drinking tonight? I know it's not great.
Oh, fabulous. That's how most wine is to me. I've got another horse picture on my wine bottle because that's how I buy wine. Let's see if I can
What
get it
kind
to
is
focus because it's actually pretty.
Purebred. Ooh la la.
Purebred.
Is
And it has
that
a really pretty
golden
horse.
font?
Yeah, it's like a golden like horse that's kind of sketched out here with like hatching, and then it says purebred, and it is a Cabernet Sauvignon. And honestly, it was like, I don't know, $8.99 at Trader Joe's. So I know it's a lot more when you go to other places. Trader Joe's has great deals on wine.
Nice. Hi,
But I
Caitlin.
poured myself a glass, so it's not like I've drank half this bottle here. I'm just put half a bottle in a glass. So it's
Fine. No judgment here.
actually, it's pretty good though. It's not too dry, which some Cabernet Sauvignon can be like a little bit dry. I found this out during COVID because that's when I started drinking red wine for the first time in my life, and I was like, "Oh, this is bitter," but it doesn't make you sick because it's not as sweet. So it's actually pretty good though.
Nice. I'm almost wondering if we need to save our wine bottles from every Wednesday night live or something
Yes.
and like create art out of it. I don't know if you've Googled like wine bottle art, but there's some cool stuff out there. I mean, I don't have a lot of places to put stuff, but I
It
feel
could
like we
be cool if you had like a collection at some
Yeah,
point. I
like
don't know,
lined
especially with the
behind
horse
you.
ones.
eventually someday with sponsors.
Yeah,
If we could just
telling
get
ya.
the wall lined back there with your strobe, I think it would be fantastic.
I just ordered because Amazon is life, and it's a huge problem waking up at 3 a.m. ordering something on Amazon. You're like, I don't remember. It's always Christmas because I never remember what I
Yes.
ordered in my stupor. But behind me, I've got like a 7-inch wide shelf that I'll be able to put up. That then I can like put
Cute.
plants behind me, and I'm like, then I could actually put something, showcase something in my hairs. This is a
That'd be
problem.
super cute. I actually have an Amazon box on my front doorstep right now, and I'm so excited to go find out what I bought myself.
Like I have no idea.
Can't wait. Oh.
Someday we'll be brave enough and we can do like an unboxing video on a Wednesday. Be like, what did Genevieve buy at 2 a.m. on Monday?
Yes. I'd be interested to know.
I know.
Hi,
So-
Krista. Krista's here.
The comments. There we are. Hey, I see Caitlin's on. We got Shannon. We've got Krista. We just had the best interview with Krista, and every interview has been amazing, mind you. And I was so stoked walking out of our interviews on Saturday, and I feel the same way tonight. Like this has just been so much fun.
Hi, Brandon Solis. I think I know who Brandon Solis is, and I think it's. I'm sorry.
What's the best way to plant for bottle shuttle?
That's the question.
All right, we've got it highlighted. I think
I mean,
Tom's watching.
That's opinion based.
Mhm.
I like to hold the middle to the bottom of the
Yep.
bottle. I think it gives me a better grip, and then I could just follow through with that. But a lot of people are starting to hold the top of the bottle, which
Yep.
I've noticed is more of like a European style way of playing. And you don't have to lean as far, which I would love to figure out how to do that. But I just don't quite have the rhythm down or the actual feel down yet.
So I've been practicing that a lot because I'm not traditionally like, I call them planters. I don't know what you're supposed to call them, but it's a planter to me, right? Like
Yeah.
planting the bottle. But anyway,
Yes.
the planter rotation would be like your 1 and 3. So in bottle shuttle, people who don't play mounted games, bottle shuttle, you're going to have a barrel set up in the middle of the field, a barrel set up at the end of the field. You will start by carrying a bottle, setting it down, riding around the end barrel, picking one up, riding it home, handing it off. Next rotation goes out, sets it on the turn, and then picks it usually while galloping, coming home.
Mhm.
So if you're planting on the way out, very much personal preference. And I'll read because Krista has a wealth of knowledge on this too. But so couple different styles. Either you hold the base, because I got a bottle here. Let's see if I can, where am I in focus here? Move my mic out. Either hold the base and kind of set it down like this as you go through, and make sure to clear your hand out of the way as you go. Because as you're moving quickly, right, your pony's going to be kind of wrapping that barrel. You've got to make sure that you don't end up dragging it forward. And ponies that are super, super quick and you've kind of graduated past just setting it really hard on the base, riders will start to hold. So like when I hold it, I hold the whole bottle, but I hold it backwards like this. This is just how I kind of learned years back.
Mhm.
And I'll set it like I'll come up and I set it like that and plant it very firmly down, right?
Yeah.
And that way my hand is perfectly clear as I move out when you can get
Okay.
the timing right. Now there are other riders, and it's like the windmill style, right? That we're starting to see. I think some people in the North, some people in Europe have been doing it. My mom has gotten so good at this; it's infuriating because she can like literally do it at a gallop at all times.
Jenny, we have some questions I would like to bring up. Are you ready for them? I don't know.
Hang on, 1 second.
I didn't know.
Finish, Tom.
Let
I'm
me
sorry,
finish.
I didn't know. Can you guys see the chat box?
We
Yes.
can.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just let me know when you're ready, and I'll start bringing them up.
Perfect. All right. So bottle plants, though. That's all right. So really quick disclaimer. We were in our interview and it's still loading, like in the background, it's saving. And because of that, we had to move over and we're on the Fishing the DMV like platform so that we could go live at the same time while that's saving. There, ergo, we've got Tom as our moderator.
Hello there.
In the background. So anyway, a couple of fundamental ways, either from the base or the back, you can place it kind of like a finger, like a pencil, and you set it down as you go by. Or the other way that's newer is like this windmill, you hold kind of like the very top or the top segment of it, and you extend your arm out and you set it down like a windmill as you go by. You got to practice different styles. I don't think there's a best way of doing it. It's just what you end up being good with. But I see a comment. So Krista said, agree. Tom, you want to highlight Krista's comment? Agree that it's personal preference. I find holding the top of the bottle to be like magic. I have no idea how it stays up, but it does. And yeah, you need less lean.
I agree with that as well. It is absolute magic. I cannot figure it out. It does not work for me.
I was trying to get video of some of the different styles of setting it actually like a couple weeks back. And it took 15 tries to get one that sat up when I was doing it. My mom did it like 6 times perfectly that way. I can set it from the base very well and behind pretty well. It just depends on the pony and rider combo.
Yeah. I feel like the first time your mom tried it, it just worked for her. And that was the way she set it up. It was from there on out.
Are you ready for more questions?
Yeah, let's go.
Well, Shannon Shea says lots of practice.
Stop it. I will bring the next one up so you can show the people off. This is proper etiquette.
Let's go. It's all good.
We'll learn.
Lots of practice. Yep. Absolutely. 100%. Couldn't agree more. Yes.
The type of bottle can be a factor as well. So true, Kim. Thanks for bringing that up. Zoe, I want to try from the top. Yeah, you should. You should. Let us know how it goes. And if you learn any tips and tricks, I'm all ears.
It takes practice. It really does. And your pony, when you do it from the top, you tend to not do as dramatic of a cut. You would just want a steady Eddie pony that goes by. And you kind of like windmill it past. Yeah. It works great for some people.
Why do you do that?
Why do you do the windmill action? So your goal is to pace your dropping of the bottle and setting it down with the speed of the pony. And then it just kind of like sets as you go and gets out of the way. I don't know. People get really good at their timing with it. If you've got a pony that's very, very consistent, like DJ for my mom, has the same canter every time he passes the barrel, and her timing is just flawless. And she just is very, very good at it. My horse Hero, he's so unreliable with his timing because he likes to surge. It doesn't really work as well for him. And the better rotation would be 2-4, or if I'm going to set it, I use the base and I slam that sucker down. Like I'm trying to go through the barrel.
Right.
So what you're saying is he has no rhythm.
He has a lot of flaws, but rhythm
Hero's
is one of those flaws.
Still training. He's still learning.
We have this comment here from Caitlin.
Caitlin's wonderful. Shout out to Caitlin for chiming in. She's our teammate. We adore her. Her pony Scotty, and Sweetie will be out there this weekend. So
yes,
hold from the top, but just
We
started
have
to
this
set.
comment from Lindsay Christian Doweed. I hold from the top, but just starting to set and pick up at a gallop. I like the shaped bottles the best.
It is a good point that I think Kim brought up. There are different. I thought about bringing some equipment back here to show you, but some of the older bottles would have been like the old Powerade bottles, and they were a little bit narrower, easier for people with smaller hands to maybe pick up and set down, had more texture to them. Then we went to the bottles that are kind of like shaped like a hourglass shape, I guess, kind of a little bit more shape to them. And they're a little bit easier to kind of handle on the top half of the bottle. And I feel like they sit pretty well when you plant them from the base. But now the most recent bottles that I just got are very much like a cylinder and like it's a cap with a
Yeah.
cylinder, like the same. It's a little bit harder, I feel like, to set those.
Zoe, I have an irrational fear of running into the barrel.
It's I'm not afraid of it because in my soul I'm like, I mean, what's the worst that's gonna happen?
That's where
Death is-
S turns.
Like-
I mean, S turns are super duper important. Now, I have gotten some nasty bruises on my knees and my shins from running into the barrel. So I can see where that fear would stem from for sure. But I feel like if you can get your pony to do an S turn, you're pretty much solid with any puts or any type of barrel races.
Yeah. And I think some ponies, it's harder to teach it's harder to teach some ponies to respect things like a barrel or a bending pole as you're
Mhm.
running straight at it. If you're afraid for your shin, you can always get like a brace. My knee won because I hurt it, but also when I was powerlifting, I started using these wraps. I'll grab one because I think they're worth it. Oh Lord. Just throwing stuff. These are
A wrap for your
Ray-Ban.
knee? Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
these are just Ray-Ban wraps. It's what you see me in when I'm competing. It's literally just neoprene, which is nice because it's not too bulky to have on with the saddle. I think a lot of knee braces that have like the mechanical support, they're too bulky for me. I'm not happy with them, but you can also get shin braces like this too. I actually have one for my elbow that I use for vaulting too, because since I'm so long in the body, I hold ahead of the saddle, actually like hold the breastplate in front, and my elbow ends up hitting the pommel a lot. So it's like padding. So
Yeah.
check out like knee braces, shin braces, neoprene wraps. This is Ray-Ban is the brand that I've used for a while.
It'll
It's
help
nice.
protect your body a little bit.
Yeah. You get a little more confidence.
Yeah.
Shannon. Top is, it just depends on the pony. And you're right. There's a lot more leaning probably involved when you're setting the base and a lot more finesse with the cut that you're doing. It's good if you have a pony that really just like charges out to be able to work on training that kind of like the big like S turn in front. I call them cuts, but like an S turn in front of the barrel,
Right.
Setting the base down and leaning a little bit. But you're right. If you can't lean so much, definitely hold the top either by the cap or hold it by the top back like I do here.
Yeah.
And you just got to set it as you go.
Zoe, I feel like I'm going to destroy my shin.
Fear is real.
Yep.
Definitely
done
have done that. It's just no.
And blow the
I
race.
mean, blowing the race isn't so much the fear. I feel like practice it at home first, right? And another thing that people don't think about, that let's say your pony does not respect barrels, whatever, a pole even. Your element, like I guess this is my barrel.
It's your
barrel. I know, like I don't have any other props. Your barrel, right? So we think about setting stuff down where we do like either you go straight by it or you do like this S turn in front of it, right? So you kind of like swerve to go out. You can also like strategically, like if you're charging, let's say we're going this way, you can think about turning after the barrel. So think about reversing that S turn that you see, past the barrel so your shin is passing it, and then cut behind it as though you're going to turn back up the field. Start to cut behind it, set your element, and keep riding. There are races like setting flags, stuff like that, where you can kind of S turn behind the element.
Yeah.
And it can work out pretty well.
Sometimes that's a really great technique to use, especially for those horses that try to outthink you too. If they're already like in their brain, they know, oh, their barrel's coming up, you're going to make me do such and such. Well, if you can tell yourself, well, I'm going to try to do something different and then catch them off guard a little bit, you'll be more successful because they'll just have to follow your lead versus trying to outthink you the whole time. Oh, wow. The cylinder bottles are all we saw in our competitions, and just recently we have seen the hourglass style bottles. I've heard that it's what is used overseas. Is there a type of bottle that is standard per equipment specs, or each group/area has their own? Curious if it is best to just practice all sorts of bottle shapes. Even the barrel heights or tops are different, which all make a difference in a successful placement. So true.
Yes. Yeah. So I have imported bottles from France twice. Technically, our group did, right? And they did like a big bulk order. But the first set we got from France, which is where most of the standard MGA equipment comes from overseas, it was hourglass. They were like these really nice thick hourglass bottles. And then the second order that I just got, they're all cylinder. So I'm not sure if there was a major shift in play or if it just depends on what batch or what region you're kind of pulling from. I've seen and played with both, and I've seen both at the top level of competition. So I would definitely advocate that you play with a couple of different ones. And always like go get you can even get bottles from like 7-Eleven or your general convenience store and just fill them like halfway with sand or something and just practice on different sides. We even practice with these, to be honest. They're really small. They kind of sit weird, but it's good to practice the feel with different size bottles.
I've noticed that different organizers have different equipment, and it's kind of the equipment that is saved and stored over the years. It depends on how often specific organizers want to replace their equipment. And I think the important thing is just to make sure whatever organizer is hosting for a weekend that all of their equipment is standard across the board. So every single lane has the same exact type of equipment and that all the bottles are the same. So I'm pretty sure our last competition, MA5, we did actually compete with the Gatorade bottles or like from way back before my time. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And that was acceptable for MGAA standards as long as they were all filled and basically weighed the same amount and were all the same size.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And the same thing with the tops. You see different trash can sizes. Even at home, I noticed that where we practice with kind of a trash can, I feel like it's slightly bigger, the brute trash cans, than some of the others I've seen in competition, or maybe just slightly lower. It really is. I mean, it's so expensive to invest in equipment that whatever an organizer compiles, they don't tend to refresh pretty consistently. And so if you see international play slightly shift, they're going to still have, the old equipment. And the same thing overseas, though. They're not going to have all brand new equipment at all times. So practice with everything that you can get. A little bit different sizes.
Yes.
Practice in the rain. And that's a huge thing too. Like a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's misty. Particularly in the United States, I feel like we're a little bit more silly about, oh, it's raining, I don't want to ride. But you're going to end up in competition someday. You're going to ride in the rain. Handoffs are totally different in the rain.
Completely different. Everything.
It's so different. All of it. Your pony even is different in the rain.
Yeah.
So definitely practice in all conditions. What do you guys consider your best races and your hardest races, and why? All right. 5 flag, I am so good at with most ponies, I think, at this point in my career. Has not been that way forever, but I'm really long because I'm super tall. I'm like over 6'1". And I've gotten my timing down pretty good that I don't really need to do any sort of an S turn or anything. So it doesn't really matter the pony as long as it can kind of project and go straight. You're pretty set. And your end turns as well. As long as there's already a flag in the cone, I think it's pretty easy to set. The first rider who sets a flag down in that cone at the very end kind of plays a crucial role in like a 5 flag race, because if they set it and they let it turn back against like the end of the field, the next rider that turns, the flag is going to kind of be in the way. So that first rider, they like set the pace. You want to kind of turn and have the flag heading towards the start line, and then every other rider follows suit, and then they kind of collect nicely, and it's very easy to set them in. Right. So I feel like 5 flag I'm pretty solid at, and 3 mug I'm really, really good at 3 mug, because all my ponies I drill 3 mug relentlessly as a way of conditioning them.
5 flag and 3 mug. Okay, so for me it's probably, what was the question again? My best race. Okay, so my best, we're going to go with my hardest race first. And I'm going to say hardest race is going to be ball and cone. Could it be because I don't practice enough? Or maybe because my pony doesn't like to stand anymore? All of the above, most likely. Also, we haven't really played ball and cone very much this season at all for me to like force myself to practice it. That race is just not enjoyable for me. Okay. And then, so my best race, quoits. My best race, I feel like, is quoits. I really get so psyched for quoits. It's just like getting to lean, pick the ring up out of the bucket, and then on your way home, check, do that S turn, do that cut, and boop, right there on the cone. And it just feels so good if you get it right.
She's got a solid lean. Like Carly is like a spider monkey up there when it comes to the leaning. Like, I mean, just off the pony.
It's my favorite.
It's a skill. Like,
Linda
do
said,
not
"Do not
porcupine."
porcupine."
What does that mean? Do you want to elaborate in the comments?
What does that mean? I've been looking at it. I would love to know that.
That's
All right,
my
Linda,
mother, and she's also an incredible competitor who's been. I hear him echoing.
Yes. Tracy says Remington likes to help see the
I
cone.
think she's talking about ball and cone there.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He'll point his nose right at it, and it's a mess.
So for me, I think hardest race. What have I really, really struggled with this season? Planting in general, like being that first rider for the bottle, like setting your bottles down. And actually, weirdly, I used to be super good at this, but I'm just in a weird patch the past like 3 years with two flag.
Yeah.
So it's those races where I have something to do immediately off the line because my pony is very, very powerful, very hot. You need time to kind of collect yourself. So I think those things strategically, when I have to be in them like two flag or even if I'm setting a bottle in my head, I'm thinking I'm circling this like, and if I can set it while I go to circle the pony and I get it early on my turn, I'll just turn and project and go back to the end of the arena. Great. If I start like, you just know when your pony comes off the line, if they're going to be too strong.
Yeah.
Another one for me has been, so corner vaults, I'm getting them. My pony's turning under me. We've gotten so much better at our vaults at the end of the arena, but my timing is just not there on straight vaults right now. So I am struggling with things like stepping stones. Timing is really, really good coming up. When I get off, my horse goes in practice where he's like, I'll trot or I'll canter, I'll be elegant.
It's so lovely.
Like, it's nice. And I'm like, oh, and my confidence comes up and I'm like, you're wonderful. And then in competition, we go from literally like trotting beside this thing, and the second he knows that I've hit the ground, we are going 100 miles an hour, and it's like live or die. So
I think another really hard race to actually practice and get good at for me is hula hoop. Just because it takes, more than one person at the barn at the same time, riding another horse, and it's all about like that timing. And it really depends who's holding your horse. And then that communication is so important. Like while you're running down the arena to like put the hula hoop, you have to trust the person's holding your horse, trust that they're going to be at the right place at the right time, and like run up. And then every person's different with their preferences. So it's really hard, especially being on a new team this year, like communicating what I need each person to do. And I think we've kind of switched up hula hoop almost every time that we've ridden, but that's good. That's good because we need to figure out what's going to work best for our team dynamic. And that's probably been a hard one for me to get my volts after that.
Yeah. No, definitely. And hula hoop is one of those that I realized it, and we'll have to do like, I want to start working this fall, maybe after this competition, on putting together some tutorial videos so people can see like some visual coaching that don't necessarily have a coach or a clinician right there, or maybe just want to see a different perspective. But hula hoop was one of those things where I realized when I was at the fun day, we started talking about it, that a lot of people don't necessarily know like a formal way of like moving through the hoop as you're running, right? Because in hula hoop, you have your 4 poles kind of set up in the field. Hula hoop just has to remain between the middle 2 poles. So you have a solid 30 feet. It just has to be there somewhere, which means that there's a way that you can kind of flow through the hoop and move and jump right on your horse. You don't necessarily have to dead stop. If you want to, you absolutely can. But even so, there's ways of kind of moving through the hoop that makes it a little bit easier. I think a visual would be really, really good on that because it's a hard race unless you really practice it.
I feel like it's a good one that we need to make like a short on, like the proper way to do hula hoop. Like even if we broke it down into like steps and then went through it and then vaulted on, I think that'd be a good one to make a video.
All right, we've deciphered what a porcupine is.
Ooh la la.
She said, do not porcupine. And we're like, what are you talking about? So that's a comment about 5 flag and what I was talking about. So at the end of the arena, when you have your cone kind of like set up and somebody sets the flag in and another rider sets the flag in, you want them all to be facing the same direction. Ideally, you want them all to be facing home. So it kind of rolls back. You have this clear opening, and then you can see literally like 3/4 of the inside of the cone as you set down. So it's easy. But porcupining, Which I hadn't really heard that term, but it makes
all
sense.
splayed out, I guess.
Yeah, it's when they look like this. And so the last rider or the last two riders are struggling because now you've got flags that are pointing in all directions. And what happens is in the base of the cone, they end up crossing. And it becomes like this lattice you have to work through to actually set it in, and they can bounce out pretty easily. So she is right.
That's a good point, Linda. Thank you. Thank you,
Yep.
Krista, for clarifying.
She's like, I speak errands.
So Tommy wants to know, how do you get your pony to turn? And I don't know what he necessarily means by that. I've asked for clarification. Tom, if you're still here, you're welcome to join.
Jenny mentioned something very interesting that I wish Carly picked up on. When you are actually dismounting to grab an object or something, and you actually taught your pony to actually turn, some people have an issue where their pony wants to go straight, or in Remington's case, every other direction but the right one. How do you work on that?
So best advice I ever got was from Adrienne when I was struggling with this. And I'll definitely have her on the show at some point because I think she brings like a really good grounded perspective on bringing up ponies. But I just heard my beagle outside the door, and he's like, huh. He's got this really deep baritone for like a 20-pound dog. And you're like, oh gosh. But so Hero was doing the same thing, and Hero was having an aversion issue. When I would jump off, he'd warp his whole body away from me, and he'd try to run backwards or sideways, like for a very, very long time. You also find a lot of Western broke horses, because they're Western broke and maybe progressed in their training. When you jump off the horse, they'll shoot backwards or shoot away because they're supposed to tether the rope. And so it's actually intentional. Your horse is supposed to slam on the brakes and go backwards. Very hard to work through that because you have to be intentional about it when you move into games. But for me, at least, what I advocate, what has worked for me, I've gotten really great advice from other people I respect on this subject. So it's not just me, but get back on your pony on the ground. So start to work on the ground again. So get off your horse where you're going to stand at the horse's shoulder and start doing groundwork again. So your pony gets used to you being on the ground and being beside them. And if you know dressage or you've done like foundational riding, you want them to be straight through their shoulders. So shoulders to neck, you don't want it to be warping away from you, like their body's pulling away. You want everything to be pretty much straight and in alignment. And you want to get to the point where when you get off and your arm is over the saddle, you can get them to continue walking straight or to turn respectfully around you without avoiding you, right? So they should stay right up there under your armpit as you're working. Once you get to that point, so you start there, then you get to the point of jumping beside your pony, because some ponies, it's literally an aversion because it's a fear reaction. They're like, I don't want that person to be doing XYZ. That's a trigger. And so you almost have to desensitize them and break it down by steps. So first, when the rider's beside the horse, is the horse even used to moving consistently or turning near you in a way that they're not like trying to run out? Very easy to work, just 10 minutes before you get on every day. Even if you use like a whip to make sure that you have like a little bit of impulsion, do that. And then jump beside your horse. So like jump and stomp your feet, and walk. And like, I'm serious.
Grab their mane,
ridiculous.
especially if they have a problem with that. Constantly
Yes.
grab their mane, give them a good pat if they keep going straight, and keep doing it over and over and over again.
And a lot of ponies I find have aversion to their mane being pulled on, and it causes this like trigger of bad behavior. My Hero is 100% that way. Like, he does not like to have his mane tugged on. And so if he feels me like go and grab the mane, immediately he pulls out and tries to move like away from the rider, and to the point where he'd go into other lanes or backwards. And so for me, either you can do what I did, and I went to a neck rope, and I had to retrain myself to vault with a neck rope, which has worked wonders, because now the neck rope kind of guides him and pulls him into the turn as we go, and he doesn't run out. Also, I don't have the main trigger, and so he's not even as mad to begin with.
And you don't have to pull on his mouth either, which
Exactly.
is the trigger that causes him to back up. So
Yep.
having that neck rope is just perfect.
And every horse is different, and like breaking down and figuring out what component is missing in the puzzle so you can build it back up is so important. But then it's just, I think I got so frustrated with Hero for years, legitimately years of dealing with this, because I was like, I'm not seeing improvement. I go out in competition, I'd have a problem. He'd blow up, because for him it was super traumatic when this would happen, because he knew that he was upsetting me and he knew that he was failing, but he also knew he was afraid of the whole activity. And then I would go home and I would just keep schooling, have like a couple of explosions, go back to competition, melt down. And I would be so frustrated because I'm like, why isn't it getting better? Well, personally, like I was not going out there with the intention of trying to fix the components that were missing. And for me, when I put 5 weeks into it, it's more like 4 weeks, really. I think I went out there 6 days a week and I went out for 20 minutes every single day.
Yep.
And I drilled on the basics of me being on the ground and then me jumping on him and not reprimanding him, but rewarding the behavior of moving straight. So every time you get off, you have the horse at your shoulder, you wrap them around, and then you ask them to move off. And when they do it well, you reward them. And getting to the point too where I wasn't inadvertently hurting him, hitting him in the face, grabbing his mane in a way that was super uncomfortable for him. So just like, if you want to see improvement, you have to be super intentional about it. Like, just like your body, you want to improve your fitness, you got to work at it. It takes a lot of time on this one, I think.
Yeah. Margot says, I really like Kelsey's use of a fence to keep them moving around the turn and come out of the turn straight. I use it all the time.
So
super beneficial when you have a
Yes.
ring or arena or somewhere with a straight fence that you're able to practice that maneuver. Yeah, definitely.
So and you're so right, because we don't have really an arena. We have like a little pad that we use, and it's
but
great.
it's
But
like round.
It's
almost,
round.
like a hexagon, kind of, to be honest.
there's no fence. When I did try at a competition to use a fence, though, because my horse is a little bit stinky, he did his whole avoidance thing to the point where he was on top of the fence, and I came over and I clocked my knee into a post at a gallop. So, and it's smarts, and it fractured something slightly, my kneecap. It's still the same way, but so be careful if you do that. That being said, depending on the size of the rider pony combo, it can work out great. If your pony isn't like sleazy and wants to just duck into a fence, you're fine. It does work.
Shannon says, I notice when people dismount, they look like, to me, seems like they're shoving them away when ponies shoot out to the side instead of going up and straight down. Yes, that definitely happens sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I have to shove my pony off of me, though, because he leans so hard. And Tommy, I know, struggles the same thing with Charlie. As soon as Tom jumps off Charlie wants to cut in front of him. So
Yeah.
I've told Tom he has to practice jumping off Charlie and running forward. Just grab the reins, run forward. Then as soon as you bend down, bring Charlie around and say turn and use some kind of voice command or something. But often times you do have to push the pony away from you. Otherwise, they're going to step on you when you have a pushy pony.
I think it's like being intentional. So I see what Shannon's saying, because you see some people, and the way that I see it is like they're trying to abort from the horse.
Yes.
They're literally jumping and pushing off and completely detaching all connection from the horse. And if you have a horse that's not super confident, it can cause them to pull away again, because it's like, trigger, like this person
Right.
is just ejecting off of me, right?
Right.
But on the flip side, I think the best thing that you can really practice is jump off your horse, like practice cantering, jump off your horse and stay at the shoulder and then jump back on, and teach your horse to not duck, because you're right. The other inverse of that is your pony ducking on top of you. A lot of horses like to start anticipating the turn and then they just roll right on top. But what I find personally, shoving them away doesn't work as well for me as maintaining connection and pushing the pony away through their shoulder, if that makes sense. So like almost holding them out a little bit with the rein and teaching them to stay off me while I come off, but there's still connection because I'm interacting with the horse during the dismount.
Especially with a sensitive pony.
Yeah.
That's so important, like not to lose that connection, because if you do with a pony like Hero, then it's kind of like all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, he's just so sensitive, and in a very good way. When you ride him, you've got such an incredible, like he feels your seat, he feels your weight, like he wants to react in a positive way. But when he feels like the rider and him are not aligned, it's complete panic. Like he just does not know how to interact and he melts down. It's a little bit crazy. But Shannon, you're right though. I mean, I think that comes back to people need to practice dismounting.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, even if you're not a vaulter and you are going to just practice getting on and off your pony,
Mhm.
even if you're using a mounting block, you should just practice it so that you have mechanics in place that you can rely on. And that when you get off the pony, and this was really hard for me, I'm tall, right? So my horse takes up a ton of leg, but he's not super high off the ground. He's like 14.0, but he's like a block. When I would jump off, I would find that almost I'd have to like bend my knees, and you have to intentionally in your head think I'm going to continue running. Otherwise, I would just hit the ground and then basically topple over.
Right.
You just got to practice mechanics.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, really good conversation. It's definitely something I've recently had to figure out and kind of highlight in my training with my horse, and even Hero, because I've been training a couple of other ponies and giving them a little bit more of my time. I haven't consistently done the vault work, and I think this weekend it's probably going to show. And his thing is he used to shoot backwards into the side dramatically to the point where I couldn't even mount him, and now it's just like he almost waits to the point where I'm like, hey, I'd love if you just kept moving.
Just go forward.
He's like, oh. It's all right. That's still a step in the right direction. So
That's all right.
I'm
He's
happy with
doing
it.
so much better this year than even last year.
Oh my
And
gosh, yes.
ever since you started working with him on the ground and just getting him to walk forward while you were, next to the saddle and like at his wethers and just getting him to go straight and forward, like that really helped me. I don't know. You worked on it way before I did, but then seeing you work on it, I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is working. So then
Yeah.
I started with Remington, and Remington didn't necessarily have a problem going forward. It was just he was a wiggle worm. Like he just wanted to go any other direction except for straight. And that was kind of what I mean. And then you can't get your vault because I'm still
Yeah.
new to vaulting, which makes it so much harder because he's not going straight, and now my vault is going to be 10 times harder than if he was like
He makes
a
it
normal
hard
pony.
for you though.
He really does. But this season, we have definitely figured it out. And I've learned a lot about him. And I feel like the next pony I bring up is going to be like on it, like so
Yeah.
much quicker because I've learned so much from training Remington.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And he's a difficult one because again, you don't have control of his shoulders.
No.
And what I mean by that is when a pony just really warps. And so you're
Yeah.
standing there, but the pony, like literally their shoulder is 2 feet from you, even though their face is in the same place.
Yeah.
And so getting them to kind of like want to move out straight and stay straight, that is like the key thing.
He's extremely flexible in all the wrong ways.
Need to work with you and not against you.
Okay, Shannon says, I noticed when people dismount. Oh, wait a minute. We already talked about
This is-
that one,
yeah.
Tom.
Tom, you just kept up.
Yeah, thank you.
And Joy is right too about outside leg. I mean, working your pony and getting them used to moving off the leg aids is huge. It is equally important to do the work from the ground because when you're riding at like an open level, if
Yep.
you think about it, like 20% of your race is typically on the ground. And we just don't spend the time getting them used to how to interact with us while they're there. And usually after I get my pony turning around me, I start to work I'll jump off, I push them away, and then I come back to them because that reapproach for some horses is like super traumatic. And it actually takes time to get them used to you coming at them and like going to grab them again and have them just continue with that pattern and not have it be like an episode. It just takes practice.
Yeah. I've also noticed that voice commands have been super beneficial for me this year. Like I honestly keep thinking, oh, Remington knows it all. Oh, we can't possibly train him to do anything else. But like the voice commands with the jumping off and telling him to turn around me. And then now we have a voice for send. And I just say go. And when I say go, he just launches now. And it only took probably like 2 months of doing those drills by myself at the barn. Just say go. And I grab his mane and he no longer reacts and he just goes.
That's what I think. Always hedge your bets and get your pony used to as many aids as possible to communicate, right?
Right.
Verbal. See, you want to have that audible. You want to be able to have seat. You want to be able to have hand. You want to be able to have leg. And in all things, you want your horse to be able to respect you. So, because there's times in every race where you don't have any one part of that. And so I feel like voice is such a great backup. And Joy's so right. Chloe turns when she says turn. Voice is so huge. And not just that. And this is a huge thing. I feel like it's especially important with mares, but it's with all of them. But praise is also so important to your
That's a good
pony.
one to bring up.
Like intentionally thinking about what they just did that was good and actually reinforcing it, because our voice should not just be a negative up here. At least 50% of the time it should be a positive, and they look for your voice because it's like, hey, you did a really good thing. And I try very hard, and I know I'm known for being a yeller, but in a good way. But to have that positive voice and affirmation as you're riding, so the horse is like, and they look forward to interacting with you.
Annie was riding her, it wouldn't say it, so I said it from the ground.
Voice commands are so great, especially as you take a pony that maybe is older and is retiring down, because it gives you a little bit of flexibility from the ground, separate from the pony, to even interact and have that command. Thomas used hut, hut, turn. He's creative, but it stands out in a sea of horses. That horse knows precisely who's talking to him and what he wants.
Yep.
Can't fault him for that. And Chris is right.
Say
Voice
turn.
is huge.
Not everybody says hut, hut.
Hut, hut, hike.
Hike. Kimberly, I'm guilty of that too, Joy. I said it to Charlie. Turn. Yep.
I say check up, check is like my word. Everybody has their own word. It's okay to have different words too, because again, it stands out when you're in a group of horses. Have you ever been playing in competition and like you do a thing and you hear yelling behind you and you're like, oh, I must have messed up. And you start to pull up and like, and you look back and then you realize it wasn't even your team. It just like the voice registered and you're like, oh, that was definitely Caitlin yelling. And I look back and no, she was actually like, you did great, Jen. But
that's definitely happened to me. I've straight up turned around before and been like, what? And they're like, keep going.
You. Like, yeah, you were fine. And I just imagine the horse too. Like, imagine your pony going from home and practicing with you and maybe another person. And they go out and there's 45 ponies in the field and everybody's yelling. And your horse is trying. Let's say your horse wants to like please you. Yeah. They're trying to understand what you're saying. Like, is your communication clear to them? Or are they in the same position where they're like, maybe she wants me back?
Linda says, check round is mine for your voice commands.
Krista Tom, says, to Krista.
Yeah, Krista says, I use stand, whoa, check, turn, and go pony. Go pony.
I think that's about it too. Yeah. I use whoa and stand, check, turn, or I say round. I said check and then round. So similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think stand is a very important one, particularly if you're going to transition to mounting your pony at some point.
Yeah. Or if you want to, be successful at ball and cone.
Riding Toby and using my language was so funny. My pony's check is whoa, and Toby's whoa was a straight stop. You're right.
That's so cute.
I train all of my horses with a lot of voice commands, and I have very specific voice commands, and I should send like a manual with them when I loan them out. Because you're right. I would have said like check up or something, and that would have been like, hey, pay attention. We're going to slow down.
She's like,
whoa is we're done. Like stop on your butt. Like abort.
That's cute.
That's so funny.
Back to Tom's question. What's your worst fall?
What's your worst fall so far? I got horror stories, but
mine is not nearly as bad as most of y'all here. But I would say my worst fall was probably a month ago at MA5. I went on one side of the pole and my pony went on the other side of the pole right after I vaulted, and it was kind of an over vault. So my feet weren't in the stirrups yet. I was still trying to figure it out. She wasn't super great at steering. She was kind of a green pony, stepping in, for us. And basically I tried to get her to turn after we both went on different sides of the pole. And she just kind of dropped her head and was like, no, you can't put all of your weight on my mouth. And I was like, okay, fine. So I just basically let go and was a little limp noodle. And then Tom said I looked like a NASCAR wreck where I just went doosh, doosh, doosh.
It just kept going.
I felt a chiropractic adjustment to my neck and had a couple bruises on my shoulder and my knee. But I'm pretty sure I suffered my first concussion But I didn't really feel the effects of a concussion until the next day.
Happens
So it's
very
kind of
often.
delayed effect. But
So I think it's important.
I
Anybody,
recovered quickly.
anyone getting in the sport at some point, it is possible that you will get a concussion. It's probably likely that you'll get a concussion if you ride horses for long enough. I've had like 3, probably 2 or 3. And I can't remember because I've been concussed. So
Oh God.
I've only got 3 brain cells to rub around in here. So but it's super important. One, if you've never been through like concussion protocol for Jen. Thanks, Kimberly.
Kimberly is counting for you. You don't have to worry about that.
She's the one making sure I don't get lost. So concussion protocol. If you fall off your pony and you feel like in any way your upper body's been affected, like neck, head, don't move. Big thing. And if you're a person who's going to assist the person, don't move them. Just make sure that their head and neck stays very still. And go through like a couple of identifying questions, what year is it? What's the president? Blah, blah, blah. Get an idea for where they sit right now. Does not mean that the concussion will not develop shortly. And so I'll explain my experience in a second. But concussions in general very often take time to develop. Just think about you hit something really hard and it's got to swell. And then it has to deal with healing after that. So it can very often manifest the day later. That's very, very, very common. And whiplash too, like that trauma to your neck can manifest later, like usually the day after. So just because you feel good immediately, like pay attention to symptoms, like feeling like a little bit nauseous, a little bit dizzy. If a teammate like has just fallen and you're talking with them and you notice them repeating the same question, or they like just seem a little bit like off, like honestly, it's important that you make sure that they get off their pony and they just rest. You don't understand how dangerous it can be for the concussion to really come alive while they're out there playing. I've seen literally a rider like get concussed, think they're fine, continue competing, and then fall off their horse at a dead gallop and just pass out. Like it can be very, very dangerous.
That's scary.
So just be careful. And so she has a good point, Linda. And so we'll talk about Genevieve here for a second.
Linda says just because you can answer all the questions doesn't mean anything.
That's why I said that it gauges how you are right now. So I have had multiple concussions, but my worst concussion, I think that I suffered, at least the most recent one, was in like 2016 or so. It was 2015 or 16. And I was riding Confetti. So it was a pony I was bringing up for resale. I was going to have her for a season. She's like 13 too, kind of long body. She's just the coolest pony. And I know that Krista still rides her. And so I ended up selling her, and she's just doing fabulously with her owner and has been for years. But we were riding at PGEC, which is like a condensed arena. And so it's a little bit shorter than some of the arenas we ride in now. So you have to be a little bit more careful with your play. Everything's more compact. And I was playing litter race, and I came around and I leaned off of her and got a really good scoop at the gallop. And as we came up, because the lanes were a little bit more condensed and she just drifted a little bit wide, like happenstance, nothing intentional. She came out wide and we ended up heading straight at a pole. So similar to your situation, Carly, like you're just going head on at a pole, except I'm leaning off the side of the pony on a smaller pony for a taller rider. And so my legs are already pretty close to the ground just in general. And she ended up ducking to the left of the pole, which I didn't necessarily anticipate. But when she did, it jarred me, fine. But because she felt me go so off balance, she threw in like a little buck. First time a pony's ever buck. I've never seen her buck since. She's just like, this doesn't feel right. And it wasn't even dramatic, but it was enough that it just dropped me. And because my knee was bent and I'm taller, I ended up so I slammed my knee straight into the ground and then whipped over. And so then I snapped my head back and got concussion, but blew out my knee the same way that you do if you have a car accident and the dash goes through your legs. So it basically disconnects it backwards, blows out the back of the knee. Like for me, it ruptured the cruciate ligament. So nothing was holding the back of my knee in place after. But all that to say that when I was laying there while Confetti's galloping, because I think I pulled off her bridle. Somehow the bridle came off in this mess. And she's galloping around the arena and Jen's laying just like prostrate on the ground, like, huh. And the ref came over and the ref was asking me questions. And they're like, who is the president of the United States? What year is it? Who's the president of MGAA? And I'm answering all these questions because Jen's sharp. Jen's real sharp. And they're like, she's good. She's fine. And I get up and I'm like, my knee don't feel so good, but I think I'm going to wait on the side. And then because my knee didn't feel right and the pain was like hitting me really hard, I'm like, I think I need to like go to the barn and just wait a little bit. Again, I was cognizant. I honestly even remember this portion. Like I was very, very sharp. And then I think the swelling started to kick in, and lo and behold, Thomas finds Genevieve wandering in the woods near the barns looking for a pony. I was just heading, like I was in Maryland somewhere. Jen, like a pony's lost in the woods, and Jen with no knee is gonna go find it.
Good Lord.
No recollection. So he brings me
You're
back
just
to the
limping.
truck.
You're hobbling.
I'm just hobbling after my
like a little
pony.
barn troll.
So he brings me back to the truck, and I try to get out and wander again, and he brings me back to the truck, and my mom's like, we got to take her to the hospital. So I know she's told me on the way to the hospital, I asked the same question like 8 times over. I'm like, why? I'm good. We're fine. She's like, Jen, you've asked me this 8 times, and clearly you don't remember what we're talking about. But you were going to get another rider. Oh, another bridle to continue riding. Right. And we know bridles are only sold in the middle of the woods. So
right. Kimberly said your bridle actually broke.
Got it. Okay.
So that's why you needed another bridle. That makes sense. Okay.
So anyway, concussions are fun. They can develop later, and injuries in general. So I blew out the back of my knee, and it took, luckily I think that was the last competition of the year. I remember Joy stepping in. She rode Indy for us, who ended up being this phenomenal mount after that. I just bought him before that competition. So thank you, Joy. But I remember dealing with that and then thinking, well, I don't know if I'll ever be able to like lift, squat, ride again, because my knee was so blown out at the time. It was super, super painful. And it took like the entirety of the winter to get to the point where I felt like I could start building up strength again. But it highlights to me like how much of a mental toll injuries take, even if it's not a concussion, if it's physical, and you mentally have to recalibrate and be like, well, yesterday I could do XYZ. I'm not there today. Yeah. What can I do? How can I get back? You know?
Right.
So, but honestly, okay, so there's that fall, but there's another fall that I remember very, very distinctly. And I think I got a concussion there too, probably. I don't remember because of the concussion part. I was riding Pepper at the time. I was the first owner of Pepper, and I'd brought him up, and then I sold him to Evan Becker, and he's circulated since. He's in with the Najis, a wonderful, wonderful home, and I'm so pleased to see him there. But I was working Pepper, who's like my heart pony at the time. I was a teenager, and somebody else tacked him for me, and I don't remember who, so I'm not calling shot. I think someone just tacked him, like threw tack on, and then handed him to me. And in my head, I'm like, he's ready to ride, and I'm a pretty like quick and balanced rider. I got up. I didn't really have any issues. He's probably puffing too and filling out the girth, but I'd started practice and I was galloping home and I picked a bottle, and it was just a normal motion, but the saddle was clearly like 5 inches too loose.
Oh, Lordy.
And my saddle just rotated and dropped me at like a gallop really, really hard. And it's the hardest fall I've ever physically felt, because every part of you that can usually save something, like everything you're holding onto is just gone. And that honestly is still traumatic for me to the point. So if anybody ever tacks my pony and usually I won't let you tack my pony. If I trust you enough to let you tack my pony, I have to double check like everything, because it's scary to lose your tack.
That's traumatic. Yeah.
It's a thing.
Joy said, I came off last year because I dropped the handoff and Chloe saw the baton drop and she stopped and I didn't. That's a good games pony right there. I mean, that just
we were
speaks
there.
Volumes.
Do you remember that, Carly?
Yes. Yes, I do.
That was that was a hard fall too, Joy.
Yeah,
because you're all very worried. She legitimately was like, "All right, Mom, I'm on this," and you're like, "No."
Yep.
While getting air.
That's funny.
It was the ponies. I mean, they honestly, they're intelligent creatures too, and they're partners with us. And learning to be able to communicate with them and make it a 2-way conversation is just so important. You still like your girth too loose. She's calling me out.
Joy said she's too smart. I mean, that's what makes the best games ponies, in my opinion, is a really smart one.
It's fun to ride a smarter horse too and partner with them. You still like your girth too. I know. Okay. We were going to ignore that and move on.
Yeah, Tom. But thanks, Tom. She's too smart.
Yes,
I love it.
Right. Connemara's too.
We're coming up on an hour, Jen.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up. Any closing thoughts? Anyone? Thank you so much for chiming into the chat. This was really fun having like
my gosh.
interaction with you guys this time. We have one. All right. So we just dropped Stacy's interview, an amazing early AM interview. Then we recorded Kimmy, and now we've recorded Krista, and we've got a lineup for next week. So we're starting to kind of get some
We have
backup.
2
which is what we
lineups for
wanted.
next week, which I'm
Yeah.
really excited about. 2 completely different kinds of interviews. So
Yes.
I'm excited to let you guys know how those go.
Yeah, we've got a nutritionist coming on. If you guys have any ideas for other, even outside of mounted games that you want to explore and you want me to go find somebody to bring on the show, please just write me any ideas you have, topics, whatever. We want to make sure that we're covering things that you're interested in. So
We should bring in what was I thinking? Pony Pony Club is what we should bring in. Some Pony Club, because that's how a lot of kids get started in mounted games. And then also I was thinking polo cross. We should do that. I've
Yes.
never actually done that,
Wait,
but I would love to hear. No, I've never
Oh my
done that.
gosh.
I've always wanted to, but
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from somebody like in the area who does polo cross and go to like some scrimmage or something.
Yeah, we definitely should. So we've got a huge lineup. Oh my gosh, you're so right, Kim. I don't know why I just forgot.
What?
All right, you guys. I was
Oh.
supposed to do a giveaway.
Okay. Here we go.
So I have this.
Look at that sucker. Oh my gosh.
Beautiful.
Genevieve, that's bigger than your head.
I was thinking maybe I should make them without streamers and call them platter ribbons.
Platter ribbons.
This purple beautiful ribbon.
All right. So what was our question?
Well, so it's got to be the first person who comments. Okay. So I know this is going to be tough, but
Get your fingers ready.
you ready? You guys get ready. I need you to tell me from last week's episode what brand, not type, but brand of wine Genevieve was drinking.
Can you remember?
Can you remember? People are going to like just go find the old episode.
I know.
Rewind it here.
How,
But the
should
first
we,
person who can sleuth it out.
should we set a time limit?
Tom, you
Thomas
don't
said
get
hot to
ribbons
trot.
and you're wrong.
Thomas, an incorrect, but
Linda, I think, is like, it had a horse on it. You're right. It did.
it did have a
It
horse on
always
it.
has horses on it. That's my mojo. No idea. Wait, should we ask a different question? Should we just halt this? Give them a different question? What do you
It's a
think,
hard
Carly?
question. So what about if they remember what kind of wine you drank? Because I would also accept that
That's
answer.
fine too. And no, it
Thomas,
wasn't 14 hands. I'd never
not
heard of it
14 hands,
before.
Tom.
I'll tell you what
Okay.
it is in a second. All right, so it was. You're right. It was a red wine. We're talking
Okay,
about.
keep going.
No, with the
Dark
actual
horse is
type.
one,
You know
no.
how like
It was not Dark Horse, but Dark Horse will most likely be drank in whatever.
On this episode of Guess My Addiction.
Whatever. Whatever.
I don't
Sweet
typically
red.
drink wine, but you know.
Cabernet is incorrect. Keep going. Keep going.
Keep going.
Zoe.
Keep going. My mom really wants this purple ribbon.
I just heard Tommy giggle downstairs. Yes, Margot! You win! Pinot Noir!
Yes. All right. So it was actually Firesteed, which I'd never heard of before. It was so good, to be honest. It was so good. But here's the problem. Margot just won last week, and I've got to make a rule.
Uh-oh.
Firesteed was it, and Margot was right.
She said she sacrifices her ribbon. Margot, pick someone.
But I'm shipping her a platter ribbon already. And so we need a different question, Carly.
She says donate next week because she already won.
I know, but I have another
Think of
one that I'm
another
actually
question.
making. I'll have a glue gun tomorrow and I'll be able to finish the next one. Margot's due. I know. I'm telling you. She cares, Mom. She cares.
She's on it. Yeah, Linda. Margot was here last week. Where were you?
She's
I'm
like
sorry.
working a job to pay for your 8 ponies, Genevieve.
Yeah.
All right. We need one more here. We
Mm,
could do like one of those randomizers. I don't know. It's pretty cute, guys. I feel like it's worth like a good question. I did realize that this is an hour and a half of my life right here. You will have immortalized in your living room.
I can't think of any other questions that I actually know the answer to.
What was the name of the first horse that you won a ribbon on?
Who's who? Carly or Genevieve?
Yeah.
Won a ribbon on?
How are they going to know that?
Okay, what was your first games pony? How about that one?
Genevieve's?
Anyone's. I don't. You only have one. That doesn't count.
That's not fair because Mom's the only one that's going to know that. Thomas.
Right.
She knows
And
all
she's
of
just
the ponies.
spouting them all
She's
off.
just
Bailey,
listing them
chill.
out. All right, I've got one. I've got an idea.
Okay.
I have an idea.
All right.
All right. So every race has a classification when you are getting ready to organize an event. You have speed races and you have consistency races, right? Okay.
Okay.
So we need to identify a race and someone has to call it out first, whether it's speed or it's consistency.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. So question is, what race is like borderline enough to make this fun? Accuracy? Yes, the statement is accuracy. Mom's just gonna like key both up.
I did tell her to get her fingers ready, so I'm proud of her.
Okay, so a race that's kind of in between to me.
Joyce's agility.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Actually, I probably need Chris. I hope Chris is still here because I might need somebody to fact check me.
I know. Honestly, I can bring up.
There
the
are
rule
three.
book or
You're
whatever.
right. So what are the three, Joy? There's agility, accuracy. What's the other one?
Speed.
Is it on-off races?
Would be speed. Speed, accuracy, and agility. Right?
Speed, agility, and accuracy. Thank you, Joy.
Yes. Thank you, Joy.
All right, you guys ready? Here's the race.
Yes.
Postman's chase. What is
Postman's
Postman's chase? Which of the three is Postman's chase?
Postman's chase. I don't even know what race that is.
It's what else do you guys call it? It's the one where you weave up to somebody who
And you put
hands
the
a
thingy in the
card, you put it in the
bag.
bag. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I call that what do I call that?
I know. It's a hard one.
Linda, okay, so we've got lots of answers. So we've got Zoe says accuracy, Caitlin says speed, Joy says accuracy, Lindsay says speed, Linda says accuracy. Oh my gosh. Pony Express, thank you so
yeah,
much.
Pony Express. Sorry,
Pony
I should have given
Express,
you that
exactly.
word.
Yeah, that's the one that I was honestly, I was like thinking, like USPS. I was like US Postal Service. Caitlin says Pony Express. Thank you. Rachel won. Linda says, okay. What was the answer, Genevieve? I don't know.
Well, because she actually gave me we got the proper title of the race. It's Jen's naming it a Pony Go race. What is the answer? All right, I need the first person. Okay. Technically, it's an accuracy race. It's a hard one, though, because you move quickly. Yes, it's an accuracy race because you have additional skills on top of it. So your speed races are going to be things like Carton and Five Flag. Postman's kind of is borderline. That's the reason I thought it was a good choice, but it's accuracy because you have technical skill that's going on at the same time, bending.
Okay.
So who's the first person to answer accuracy is the question. Yeah, I mean, I kind of blew that one because I kept calling it Postman. So
speed. No, it's fine. It's fine. Everybody knew what race you were talking about.
He was the first person.
Here we go.
So technically it was Linda, but I don't know if you want to give it to your mother or not.
Well, technically she answered it before everybody. I think before we asked the question.
Linda said speed. She didn't say accuracy.
She said accuracy at 9:15.
So even though she's delusional, she technically prophesized the correct answer. So.
Well,
all right. Everyone says Rachel, which means
that means it was Rachel.
I believe in the fandom and what they agree.
And Linda also already has one of your ribbons or a few of your ribbons.
That's true.
So I think Rachel
Christmas is coming. So
yes.
All right.
Rachel
so
said
if you
it
can
first.
go onto Facebook and you can IM my personal profile, Genevieve Aarons, or you can do the Unbridled profile. Either one, just message me your address so I can ship you the epic purple platter ribbon.
Super duper.
So cool. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us this evening. We'll be back next Wednesday evening, and then we'll be dropping another episode proper interview next Monday. So we got a Monday, Wednesdays. And eventually, if we get enough interviews in the queue, apparently our producer, Thomas, has said we might be able to get to 2 a week with our live on Wednesdays. Keep checking in. Please please subscribe, please share to your profile so that we can get more people engaged. The more that we can get engaged, the more that we have the ability to attract people onto our show to do interviews. So thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good
Bye,
one at
guys.
MA6Q.
Thank you.